All right, it's 6:01, and let's call the meeting to order. The meeting of Business License Commission is called to order. We begin to acknowledge that the land in which we gather and that is currently known as the City of West Hollywood is the occupied, unceded, seized territory of the Gabrielino Tongva and Gabrielino Kish peoples. The next item is Pledge of Allegiance. And Elise, would you? Yeah. Please rise and face the flag. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, roll call. Secretary, may I please get a roll call?
Commissioner Berry?
Present.
Commissioner Cochran? I'm sorry, he is absent today. Commissioner Eisenberg? Present. Commissioner Hain?
Here.
Commissioner Volin?
Here.
Vice Chair Ng?
Here.
And Chair Yusupov.
Present.
And we have a quorum.
Thank you. The next item is approval of agenda. Are there any changes to tonight's agenda?
There are no changes.
Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Okay, so motion by Commissioner Woolen, seconded Commissioner Berry. Can we get a roll call, please?
Commissioner Berry?
Aye.
Commissioner Eisenberg? Aye. Commissioner Hain?
Abstain, please.
Commissioner Volin?
Aye.
Vice Chair Ng?
Aye.
And Chair Yusupov.
Aye.
And the item is approved.
Okay, the next item is approval of the minutes. Are there any changes to the minutes of September 10, 2024 meeting?
There are no changes.
Is there a motion to approve the minutes of September 10?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so motion by Commissioner Woolen, seconded by Commissioner Ng, Vice Chair Ng. Secretary, may I have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Berry?
Aye.
Commissioner Eisenberg? Aye. Commissioner Hain?
You know, I'm sorry, I meant to abstain on the minutes, but approve the agenda. So I'm abstaining for the minutes.
Okay. Commissioner Volin?
Aye.
Vice Chair Ng?
Aye.
And Chair Yusupov.
Aye.
And the item is approved.
Okay, the next item is item 6, public comment. This time is set aside for members of the public to address the West Hollywood Business License Commission on items of general interest within the subject matter of jurisdiction of the Commission. This is not the public comment period for any public hearings on the agenda tonight. Public comment for the public hearings will occur at the time of the hearing. There will also be a general public comment later in the meeting for those who could not be heard at this time. Each speaker will have 3 minutes. If you did not register to speak via Zoom with the city staff, you will not be admitted into the Zoom to speak. The cutoff time is 2 p.m. the day of the commission meeting, as indicated on the posted agenda. Do we have any speakers tonight?
There are no public speakers at this time.
All right. The next item is item number 7, public hearing. An application by Beaches Tropicana located at 8911 Santa Monica Boulevard for an extended hour business license to operate until 4 a.m. on Saturdays and Sundays. I will now open the public hearing on item 7A. Secretary, how was this item noticed?
All notices were posted at the city's 3 legally required posting locations and sent to all occupants within the 500-foot radius of the business.
Thank you. Does any commissioner have any disclosures to make? Nope. Okay. Is there a staff report?
Yes.
Yes, good afternoon. I'm just waiting for the PowerPoint to show on the screen so that everybody is able to see it. We're just having some technical difficulties, so here we go. Well, good afternoon. My name is Jessica Benitez, Code Enforcement Supervisor, and with me is Mr. Vito Adomaitis, who is our Neighborhood and Business Safety Manager, Director Rivas, Sergeant Duron from the West Hollywood Sheriff's Department, and Deputy City Attorney Scott Shapes. So the item before you is an extended hour business license. I'd like to make a note that this is not to serve alcohol for the hours between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. as it is prohibited by law. In addition, I want to make a note that the business has all required conditional use permit, business licenses to operate as a nightclub through the planning division. This application is to allow an extended operation between the hours of 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. on Saturdays and Sundays, just like the previous business. And on the screen, you will show the type of licenses that Beaches Tropicana has, the hours of operation, which is Thursday through Sunday from 9 p.m. to 2 a.m. In August of 2024, they submitted an application to operate past 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. While this application comes before the Business License Commission, we granted an interim extended business license, which is allowed by the West Hollywood Municipal Code. So, once the commission makes a decision to approve, then we'll grant the license. If the commission decides to deny the request, then the business will be required to revert back to the business operation. And once again, this does not include alcohol service. The business, if you're not aware, it's located on the northwest corner of Santa Monica Boulevard and San Vicente in the red bubble. And then it's neighbored to 4 other establishments with extended hour business licenses. That means that they're able to operate past 2 o'clock in the morning. As indicated on the staff report, I included a chart of all the businesses that are on the location. On the screen, we have a nightclub, 2 restaurants, and a grocery store within 1,000 block radius of the subject location. So as part of this application, there are 4 findings that we need to find as a staff, right? 1 deals with parking, off-street parking. The business, the commercial establishment, is next to a large parking space or parking lot on the north side of the subject business. It has parking areas around the location, and to ensure that there are no traffic impacts in the neighborhood, the business will be conditioned to have a dedicated security guard to monitor the red curb. Those are the issues that we got a response from our parking division. The second is that the proposed business premises shall be maintained. Well, the commercial establishment was remodeled back in 2021. The business does not plan to immediately remodel, but if they do in the future, they would be required to go through a planning division and building and safety. Third, the applicant or license will discourage patrons from engaging in criminal or unlawful activity. And to institute security measures by contacting the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. The applicant has employed security officers that are licensed through the state of California Bureau of Security Investigations to provide security services at their nightclub. In addition, they have over 40 surveillance cameras throughout the establishment, and the 6 unarmed licensed guards will be on site during the extended hours. The fourth is the applicant will discourage loitering in and immediately adjacent to the business premises. The business will be conditioned to have one of the security guards to monitor the noise levels and discourage loitering. I want to mention that as part of this application, we retrieved code enforcement records, which indicated there was no noise complaints from the period of August 2024 to present, and records from the previous establishment from June 2023 to July 2024 resulted in 1 noise complaint. However, it was filed after the fact. The code officer conducted multiple inspections or follow-up inspections and found no violations. With that, we also contacted the Sheriff's Department as part of this application to retrieve calls for service. On the screen, you will see the calls for service from August 2023 to September of 2024. On the midsection, you will see the calls for service. There were a total of 88. And then within the same time frame, the calls for service between the hours of 2 a.m. and 4 a.m., there were a total of 25. As previously, Commission has requested cost for service for similar establishments. So we also requested for cost of service for the same range period. And there were total calls for a nearby nightclub, total calls of 89. And then within the same time range, between the hours of 2 a.m. and 4 a.m., there were a total of 27 calls for service. We contacted, as mentioned, we spoke to the Sheriff's Department, and Sergeant Dudon is here to answer any questions regarding the cost for service. But based on the cost for service, based on the business operation, and based on the code requirements, and the code requires that the business has a manager during the extended hours of operation, that the light or glare installed is not going to impact any residential areas or any nearby areas, noise, traffic impacts, parking, and crime prevention as discussed earlier. So those are conditions that are going to be incorporated into their business license, and that's something that code enforcement officers will be doing random inspections, or during the renewal period that we do a check on their business license operations. So with that, with the application, with the fact finding, with the reports, calls for service, staff, we recommend that this extended hour business license for Beach Tropicana is approved. Staff and is available for any questions you may have.
Does any commissioner have any questions to the staff at this time? You have a question? Commissioner Hang?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question pertains to the resolution on page 22 of the commission packet, number 8.
Okay?
Can staff please clarify item number 8?
Clarify the what, I'm sorry?
Item number 8 on page 22.
Yes, so when I checked the fee schedule, I didn't immediately see a fee schedule approved by the finance department. So that is something that we'll be working with the finance department to reflect a fee schedule of what would be, or the amounts that will be for the city to charge businesses that have this condition.
Great. So item number 8 is basically saying that if first responders were to be called from hours of 2 to 4, then the establishment may be responsible for paying that. Is that kind of what
That
you're
is
saying?
correct, yes.
Okay. What sort of examples, if staff can clarify, would cause the applicant to be responsible to pay for a service call?
So it would be, for example, if we get a report from the Sheriff's Department that they're getting reports of fights, or for paramedic service, or that the operations have turned to be egregious. This is some tools for the city to recover those fees for service, calls for service.
Thank you. So an example would be if an unhoused individual were to throw a brick at the business's windows and shatter it, say between the hours of 2 and 4, would the business be responsible for that service call if an ambulance were called, fire engines, police cars?
Good question. No, it wouldn't include for an unhoused person to do that, but it would be more for, when I mean egregious operations, for example, the business is having over occupancy parties after 2 o'clock in the morning, and they are allowing severe intoxicated people to be inside the business, that would cause for them to call the sheriffs, the paramedics, and they will need to call 911, and it's a repetitive occasion or problems in the neighborhood that would necessitate for us to review that and then decide for cost for service, obviously working with our public safety partners, and then charge whatever fees we need to charge based on the number of costs of service.
Got it.
And I will also, I don't know if Vito wants to add anything to that.
Thank you. Just to add that, in response to Commissioner Hang's question, Any of the conditions related to this extended hour business license that would create an impact to our public safety partners, let's say they operated beyond the 4 a.m. and we received calls and complaints about that and we confirm that, then any of those responses from any of our public safety partners would be, would be a violation of their permit, but would also be subject to condition number 8.
Thank you. I guess condition number 8 just kind of puts me at a heightened concern because businesses pay taxes, right? And these taxes don't end service between 9 to 5 p.m., for example. So I feel like it would be extended beyond after hours, which would cover it. So I understand where the city is saying that they would recoup it, but I just don't want it to seem punitive for businesses in general.
Understood. Really, condition number 8, said another way, is to recoup costs related to a business that is not operating in compliance with the conditions that are being imposed and that are creating an impact to our public safety services. So, ideally, a business that's operating in full compliance with the conditions as shown here would not ever need to trigger condition number 8.
Thank you. And it appears that this business has been complying. The numbers seem to have gone down in regards to their service calls. So, thank you.
Commissioner Vice Chair Ng.
Thank you, Chair. To staff, I would presume that that applies to any after-hours business, right? They're all the same. That condition would remain, or that would apply to any after-hours business. Is that correct?
So I want to make a mention that this is in extended hours business license is to be under the Planning Commission. Now this is the second nightclub that is requesting at the same location, requesting for an extended hour business license. So essentially, this is a change of ownership. But this is the only first nightclub establishment that has requested for an extended hour business license. I wonder if that makes sense. Because the other establishments were approved under the planning division.
Commissioner Barry.
I'm just wondering, looking at the data you provided, has the pickpocket data gone up or down from the previous tenant?
I'll defer it over to the sheriff's station, to our Sergeant Dudon, who I don't see him. Oh, here he is.
Hi, good evening. So the data that was provided, I didn't compare it to last year's data, but our numbers overall for pickpocketing have gone up in the last year, just in general in the city. But I don't have the data specifically for that last year's period to this year's period for comparison. Anything else?
Yes, Vice Chair Ng.
Thank you, Chair. Officer, I think the last time that we were here, one of the reasons for extending the hours was that the staggering of exit would be helpful. Do you find that it has played out the way that we had hoped?
We really don't have an opinion on that aspect of things. I know that that's part of their plan and their safety plan. And it makes sense to us, but tracking-wise, we don't really look at stuff like that from the Sheriff's Department's perspective.
Any other questions? Commissioner Ng.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just out of curiosity, item number 8 on the resolution, what I was just asking about, does not apply to the business at 8857 Santa Monica.
No, it does not.
And that is because the 8857 location was grandfathered in.
Correct.
Thank you.
Wait, and I'm sorry, I called you officer. I should have said sergeant.
You're good.
Any other questions? Thank you, Sergeant. I have a question for the staff. So that item number 8 about all public safety calls and cost, are they applicable only in case of violating the license, or if, let's say between hours of 2 and 4, someone calls for medical assistance from the nightclub? Would that cost be then charged back to the business?
This is only applies during the extended hours of 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. only on Saturdays and Sundays during the extended hours operation. It does not apply to any previous calls prior to 2 a.m.
But after 2 a.m. to 4 a.m., if someone at the nightclub having a medical emergency and they call for service or would then business be charged for that call?
Not for something like that, because obviously they're rendering aid to someone. But the example that Mr. Vito mentioned earlier is that are for any impacts that is causing based on the operations of 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. that are egregious, that it's happening. And of course, this is not something that we will automatically charge the business. This is something that we will work with our public safety partners, with the fire department and with the sheriff's department. I know that in other establishments, not related to this, is in previous cities, is that there has been shootings, there has been, and it's repetitive, and there be egregious operations. So just by them calling 911 will not automatically charge a fee to the business operator.
So just to clarify, let's say there is an assault after 2 a.m., let's say at 3 a.m. in the nightclub, and the police called. And would that be something that the business have to pay for?
If it's an assault that someone, if it happened outside, it's not to the business, right? What is it? Operations. Everything is not going to be automatically to charge a fee. We will get a report. We will sit down, and then based on what's causing, and then we will then apply condition number 8.
Because my concern is I know that business would be reluctant to call a police or emergency if they wouldn't be unsure whether they're going to be charged for it, and it could be in a gray area where they don't know if it's already serious enough for the emergency to be called, or if they have to wait it out and try to resolve it themselves. So I think some clarification, especially to the people operating the business, would be helpful. That way they would know, like, because those calls could be thousands of dollars if there are multiple calls during the month, and they could be reluctant to call if they don't know whether they're going to be charged or not. So from what I see here, I don't see if it's clear whether they're going to be charged every time or not.
So, Chair, Danny Rivas, Director of Community Safety. So just to remind the full commission, this was the same condition that was applied to Hart, the previous business, after multiple hearings where staff was asked to return at the commission's request. And so in looking at that, and looking at the totality of businesses of this type that are nightclub establishments that are operating in the city, right now, we only have 2 other establishments in the city that are grandfathered in to Commissioner Hanks' earlier point. They're legal nonconforming uses that were in place prior to the city's incorporation. And so as we're looking at this holistically, we do want to have the ability, the city does, to be able to recover costs, because if this business was not approved and was not operating between the hours of 2 a.m. and 4 a.m., then we would not be exhausting public safety resources, whether that's sheriff's department, whether that's fire department, whether that's code enforcement. And actually the fact that we did add this third business prior to the current ownership, we had to actually make adjustments to staffing hours. So I just want to bring that to the commission's attention, that staff strongly is supporting still remaining this condition in place. It is not something that is automatic. I heard the example of a person experiencing homeless that may throw a brick at establishments, and obviously that type of call for service is not something that the city would apply this mechanism to the business on. But if there is a fighting, if there is a shooting, to Jessica's point a little earlier, that we have had at establishments, not very often, it's extremely rare. But if we are having issues, nuisance-related issues that again are impacting and causing public safety resources to be exhausted, then yes, we will be applying that charge to be able to recover that cost. And so I know it's not like a fixed criteria, but every situation is a little bit different. We haven't had to be able to apply that. This is the first extended hours location that we've applied this. And so I heard the question from one of the commission is that in the future, if we do have similar establishments that are nightclubs that are asking for extended hours, then we would be applying the same condition to those as well. We wouldn't be recommending such a condition on, let's say, a restaurant that's just wanting to serve food, right? And it's not a nightclub type of atmosphere. And so we would weigh those types of requests out, of course, in applying this condition. But staff would certainly assess that, get more detailed background information on what the true cause of the situation was. And then if needed, would have the ability to apply the recovery of these. But it certainly is not intended to be punitive or intended for folks not to call 911 if they're in need. If somebody's suffering from a heart attack and they just happen to be in the business, things do happen, then obviously having that information after the call for service, after that treatment, again, that's not something that the city would go to the business and say, hey, now you have to pay for these services. But if it was something different, or maybe somebody overdosed in an establishment, then that is something that we would consider in terms of applying the recovery of these services. So it's very difficult to kind of lay out specifics, and so we wanted to apply that condition. That's the reason and the intent behind it. But I just wanted to make mention of that to the commission. So.
And so did you mention that it hasn't been applied yet? Because they've been open from 2 to 4 already, and the previous, so far that charge hasn't been levied on them.
It has not.
Okay.
Yeah, it is not. Yeah.
Got it. Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions? No. Thank you. So is the applicant present? If so, please provide your presentation. You'll be given 5 minutes. And if you'll need a little additional minute, please let us know.
Commissioners, it's nice to be back. Thank you for having me back and having this opportunity once again. As you can see, I'm still here. We've had some changes with the ownership, but I've stayed on board. And I think one thing I was thinking of is after something gets approved here, you don't really get to say anything after. But again, I wanted to thank you all for giving me this opportunity. And when I was up here, I very much gave you my word on behalf of myself and the business. We also came back 6 months later. And I think that we've kept our word, and I'd like to thank you for putting that trust in me. And we continue to keep our word. And for me, this is very much, like I mentioned last time I was here, it's not just a business, it's personal, and this is my community and something I take very personally. And the one thing I'm thrilled to say is the same can be said for my new partners, who are very much members of our community, take community safety personally, take the business personally, and take our neighborhoods, personally. I myself live a couple blocks away from the club on Huntley, so I walk home every night. I see what's going on the streets. I see what's going on in the parking lots. I see what's going on in the neighborhoods. I have active, proactive conversations with, and they could all attest to that, with code enforcement, with Sergeant Duran, even myself, we'll touch base time to time about what's going on in the city. I think, we're also always open to suggestion. We can always get better at what we do. I'll never get up here and claim that we do everything personally. We're here to learn. We're here to get feedback. For example, one thing we discussed was providing free water after hours. We also got into offering food. We took the offering of food and food for sale one step further. We've now put in a pop-up chef program where we have different chefs that are all queer or minority chefs that maybe haven't had an opportunity to showcase their food, and we feature them now for a month, and they get to offer their food and expose their food to the community. So I think, I'd like to say that not only do we try to adhere to the conditions that you put before us, but we almost try to take it one step further and really kind of engage and take an active part in the community. I think the same thing can be said for our security. I think we're really, really proud of what we've been able to accomplish with the training with our security. Pickpocketing, I definitely can attest, is very much down. And I think that's because our security, we've trained them better on how to spot pickpockets, how to spot their behavior. Once you start to figure out, things that are happening in the neighborhood, you can be much more proactive as far as addressing them. It's the same thing with engagement. I think the one thing when you're engaging a community, we never want to come off as the enforcers. We want to always come off as people who are approachable. We don't want anybody to ever be afraid if there's somebody that's having an issue, or if there's somebody, that is waiting for a ride home. We'll help people. Prior to Uber and Lyft, when I had my first nightclubs here, we had the $10 program. I would always give my security $200 in tens, and they would stand outside the club, and anybody that looked like they weren't in a good shape to drive home, or for whatever reason, we would put them in a cab. The same rules still apply. We are there to serve the community. The people that are in this community, to us, are not just welcome in our business, they're wanted in our business, and we treat them as people who are wanted there. Because I think our community is important, our nightlife is important, and for many people in the queer community, these clubs and these establishments was where they came together as a community and helped create the progress that we see today. I'd like to introduce you to Jacob, who's one of the new partners in the business, so he can say hello.
Hello, and thank you for hearing this out today. We're very appreciative of this opportunity. It means a lot for us. We've been in this community now over 5 years, and we work very hard every day to not only provide a good hospitality experience, but provide something memorable for the city of West Hollywood. We think about our location as kind of at the center of the Rainbow District, and we hold that responsibility very, very dear to our heart, and it means a lot to us. So it's not just something that we get up every day and hope we sell a bunch of liquor that day. It's more about serving the community. It's more about providing that safe space. It's about different, we were able to host debates. We were able to host community forums. That space we want to activate for a lot more things than just a dark spot that opens at 9 p.m. every day. We just started opening earlier every day, and we look forward to adding more and more of that to that location. So the after hours is a critical component of our business. We very much appreciate your consideration for that. And to the one item that was brought up, it is a little bit concerning to us as a business owner, only because we don't really have a clear understanding of when would it apply. So without that clarity, it makes me a little nervous, I'll be honest, as a business owner, because a call for service could be $20,000, $30,000. And if somebody OD'd because they came in and we have no idea of it, it's not something we're promoting or anything like that. So it's hard for us to stomach that one. So appreciate any consideration on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just point of order, before we continue, if you could both state your both names for the record. Thank you.
Paul Nichols.
And Jacob Shaw.
And sorry, I don't know if I can add, but one thing I want to be very, very clear about is we would never, ever second guess calling if we felt the need to call for financial reasons. That's not ever anything that would cross if there's ever a reason to call, we would call. And I think our relationship with Sergeant Duran and with Danny Rivas, Mr. Rivas, I think is good enough that we wouldn't hesitate, because we don't think so far there has not been any gotcha moments. I think we've really had an active communication with them. So.
Thank you.
But I appreciate the clarity, because it was, when we read it, we needed the same understanding that you guys did.
Does any commissioner have any questions to the applicant at this time?
What you had hoped, that people were calming down or getting
more
sober
than
before
I hoped.
going out?
More than I hoped. It's actually worked out better than we could have ever imagined.
Do you have people coming into the club to sober down?
It's mostly an extension of people who are there not having to leave. But one thing we see, for example, is, again, this is a community. So ask anybody who lives we're not a normal city. Ask anybody who lives in West Hollywood. Chances are they have a friend who's a drag queen. They have a friend who's a DJ. They have a friend who's a go-go dancer. So there's a lot of people that, have, for example, that go out and have a friend that works at the Abbey or works at, one of the other bars as a bartender or a boyfriend, and people will sometimes come into the club and wait for that person to get off work because the businesses that close at 2, their employees still don't get off work till, for example, 3 o'clock in the morning. They need to do their closeouts and stuff like that. So we actually have seen things we didn't really think of and didn't expect of people saying, thank you so much. Because those businesses cannot allow non-employees in after 2. So we've had people come up to us and be like, thank you so much. I used to have to wait, for my boyfriend to get off work, on the street for an hour and really had no place to go. Now I have a place where I can go, have a glass of water, and then we can do what other couples do, meet up after work, and have a bite to eat. It just, for them, happens to be 3 a.m., but for them, that's their norm, Those are the hours they work. So we think it's worked well, not just for the patrons, but also for the people in the neighborhood. The one thing I will say is, and we never marketed as such, this is not something that people drive in from LA and stuff for. If somebody gets out of a club at LA at 2 a.m., by the time traffic and stuff, nobody's showing up at 2:30 to come somewhere for an hour. It's people that are really basically kind of killing time and trying to kill time in the best possible way. And it takes a lot of that pressure off the neighborhood and helps remove a lot of that chaos of everybody trying to get home at the exact same time. And, even if you haven't been out till 2 a.m., or 4 a.m., lucky you, I have to do it every weekend twice. I'm sure you have been to a concert or a busy show and you know what it's like when you call that Uber and it's 4 times the price and it's surging and you have to wait forever. The same thing happens in West Hollywood every single night at 2 o'clock in the morning. And we've made that a lot easier for people. And also from a financial perspective, that's people spending, that's taking money away from people who are working, for minimum wage that don't have $60 to spend on an Uber to go 15 blocks. So I think it's also helped in that sense too, keeping more money in people's pockets so they can spend it for better things.
And you're still giving out free water.
And we're still giving out free water. Very, very good water. Spa water.
Thank you.
Vice Chair Ng.
Thank you, Chair Yusupov. Mr. Shaw, you mentioned that you are a part of the community. Are you living here in West Hollywood?
Yeah, well, my home is just right outside of West Hollywood, the border, right on the edge. I live next to the Pink Taco.
Don't tell your addresses.
No, I won't give you the specific location.
Around the corner.
I live in the neighborhood. My payroll office is located. I have the only office space, or one of the only office spaces on Santa Monica between Robertson and San Vicente. I moved my payroll company here, and I have I work and live here 24
I'm sorry
hours a
that you're
day,
not able
feels
to actually live in the city, because trust me, living in West Hollywood is really a benefit. Do you have any other nightclub or entertainment establishments in the city?
I am part of the ownership at Beaches WeHo across the street.
Any other questions? Commissioner Barry?
Mr. Shaw, Mr. Nichols, so I see your point about the lack of clarity in subsection 8, but I also see Mr. Rivas's point about the need for it. As such, I'm just kind of wondering, from your perspective, what would you, because you said that, I think it was Mr. Shaw that said that you would like to see more clarity. What kind of clarity would you like to see in that specifically?
Well, I think if I'm...
I think we got a lot of it now, and I'm assuming that everything here goes on public record. So I feel confident in the clarity that's there. The other interesting thing, though, I will point out, and I'm not coming for the restaurants, but it's just as likely that a fight or something could break out at a restaurant. In fact, in some regards, more likely, because nightclubs have a lot more security features. For example, we want everybody coming in for the after hours and stuff like that. Our security is specifically trained to identify people that might be problems and deny them access. A restaurant is not necessarily trained to do that. So, people, look, I'm sure you've all seen the viral videos of people fighting, waiting in line at the taco stand or for pizza. Stuff happens, but I don't think that it's any more likely to happen at our establishment than any other establishment. And I think, the proof is in the pudding. Like, Mr. Rivas said, we haven't had any call where we've had to have the police or, in fact, the paramedics enter the property. So, yeah.
And if I could just kind of add to that, I think there's really disparity, and I understand the purpose of the language. It makes a lot of sense to me too, as a community member. Like, you don't want to, somebody running a bad business, they're calling they rely on the paramedics as their security or the sheriff as their security, not taking care of things in-house. But what I would like to see is maybe something where there would be multiple violations attached to this commission first, prior to something like that being initiated. More of like a, hey, you've been in front of the License Commission. We take what you've put on us and the conditions very seriously. If we don't follow those rules, the first step I would think would be to come back here and to have to answer to you all, who gives us that license and who extends that to us. If at that point, then there was no cooperation, or somebody that's not a member of the community. A lot of people buy businesses and you never see them, and they have a manager who runs it and that you never hear from them again. That's, I think, maybe where the language is intended to direct. I don't feel like we would ever even be subject to that.
Come up.
But it is just one of those things where what could happen when maybe somebody else is in power here, or what happens when Danny's not, if Danny wasn't there or somebody wasn't there that knew us in the community, what would happen? Like, we need more clarity on this is the law, if that makes sense.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, if I could provide some clarity to Mr. Shaw and Mr. Nichols. The conditions related to the permit are intended to be fairly clearly written. And violations of those conditions that code enforcement would address would be dealt with first between code enforcement and the business owner. And we would seek to rectify and correct any violations of those conditions first with the business owner. It would not come to the Business License Commission. That is a code enforcement case dealt through the city's code enforcement powers, through the staff that we have that monitor these businesses and operations throughout the city. So I just want to provide some clarity on that. And I think with regard to condition number 8, we did provide some additional background information. Director Rivas provided some additional information. And I also made reference to the conditions of approval related to this license are intended to ensure that we don't have problems in that 2 to 4 a.m. period, correct? That's why we're before the commission. It's a license, it's a permit to operate during that extended period. And for that extended period, we impose these conditions to ensure that we don't have any problems. And through that effort going forward, I think between the business and certainly our code enforcement staff in the city, we'll be able to make things work and keep things operating within the code and in compliance with all the conditions that are before the commission tonight. I hope that provided.
Yeah, thank you. I think one other thing to add too, and exactly the difference between business owners who are present in their business and, let's say, a corporation or a nightclub conglomerate that has a manager, is we don't take anything for granted. For example, we're required to have 6 guards. Doesn't mean we schedule 6 guards. We usually schedule 7. Because if there's a situation where somebody feels sick at the last minute, calls out, doesn't show up, whatever, we're not that business that's gonna be like, oh, well, we had 2 guys call out sick today. We're not that business. We plan for that. There's also, like you said, beaches across the street, and the security gets off there. We're not one of those businesses that makes excuses. The buck stops with us. If we say we're gonna have 6 guards, no matter what, we're gonna have at minimum 6 guards, most likely more, because we take it seriously. And that's not just because those were imposed. That's actually just how you run a good business. We don't want to have a business that's known for bad stuff going down, Like any business. You don't want to be a restaurant that's known for bad food. You don't want to be a nightclub that's known for having fights. And that's just the reality of our business, and we take it seriously.
Thank you.
And also, if I can just add, as part of the business license application submittal, when the applicant submitted this application, it was also shared that the same conditions from the previous resolution were going to be making to these business license application. That's all I need to say.
Okay.
Commissioner Eisenberg?
I just want to be clear that this is, number 8 is going to be a condition for any future clubs that ask for the extended hours too. It's going to be a standard clause.
That is correct.
Okay.
Any other questions? I have a couple of questions. So could you just restate what's going to change from once 2 a.m. happens, you're going to close the patio, everybody's going to be led to the inside. So can you just describe what's going to happen to the operation from
Yeah.
2 a.m. and onward?
Yeah, absolutely. At around 1:30, we start letting people know, educating them, because we might have tourists from Europe, for example, who, last call is not something they even know what it is. And, we start making announcements saying, the party goes till 4, but this is your 15, minute last call for alcohol. So we start to let people know that this is the time that it's winding down. We don't want a situation where somebody at 2:10 a.m. is upset because they can't get a drink. We like to educate people on the process. Same thing with the patio. We start to let people know, hey, the patio is going to close down in about 15 minutes. Again, we don't wait till 1:55 to close the patio. We're doing this to avoid chaos, so we don't want to create it within our own establishment. We have our ambassadors, our hosts, our security start going to people on the patio. Hey, if you want to finish up your drinks, the patio, is going to close in the next 15 minutes. If you want to head inside, and then at 1:45, we go out and say, okay, patio's closed. The patio is usually closed, and people are in by 1:50. We're not playing it, on the nick. We also have large LED walls in the club, and the display changes on all of those to let people know that it's the last call for alcohol, and then it also lets people know to finish your drinks, so people know that they have 10 or 12 minutes to finish their drink, because we do remove any liquor from the floor, so there's no liquor on the floor at all past 2, and we actually remove the entire, we installed the wells on the bar, so they actually clip on and clip off. We actually remove the entire wells from the floor. People are visual. Same reason why we put the food and water out, so people know to eat and drink water. We also remove the liquor, so people, if they don't see it, they're less likely to ask for it. And then we start to display, coconut waters and different other beverages that we may sell in addition to the water that we offer for free.
And then the outside on the patio, there's no music happening?
None whatsoever.
Nothing.
And the garage doors close fully.
Okay. And then, so those 6 security guards, are they present the whole time?
They're present the entire time, including our manager and me.
And does anyone make sure, like, if someone is leaving and they're intoxicated, do you guys question them? Do you ask them if they are okay to drive?
It's something I've done since the beginning. If we ever see, and by the way, it's not just intoxicated. Who knows? If I see somebody leaving that looks upset, like they got in a fight with their boyfriend or their girlfriend or whatever, all our security and all our hosts are trained to identify, as a club owner, there's nothing worse you could imagine than something happening to somebody in your club or after your club. That's just, we're here to create, obviously, fantasy, and so people can get away from their problems, but it's also something we take seriously. And all our staff is trained to identify if there's somebody that looks like they're having a hard time of any kind. And we'll put somebody in a Lyft, we'll put somebody in Uber, we'll get somebody a bottle of water, we'll get them a hamburger. That's what we do, and that's something I've always done. It's something I did when we closed at 2 o'clock in the morning. In fact, it was actually much harder to do when we closed at 2 o'clock in the morning because we had 15 minutes to assess the well-being of 600 people. Now we have 2 hours to assess that in a much slower procedure, and on basically as they exit on a 1-by-1 instead of 100 at once. So that's something that I've always trained my staff to do, and we continue to do and will continue to do. And again, I always come down to, people talk about diversity, people talk about, this kind of thing. The biggest argument for me is also in my business, that's just good business. I always say we're not a business where, queer people and trans people and people of color are just welcome. They're wanted. And I always train my staff to show people that they're wanted in the business. It's the same thing. You have a person who's had a rough day and really just has been through it, for lack of a better way to put it, and you make them feel good and you buy them a burger and you send them home in a Lyft. Those people are customers for life. And I've built my business one person at a time, and I never forget I can lose it one person at a time. And that's something I walk in there every night with that at the back of my head, and I try to instill that in every single person who works within the business.
Thank you. Any other questions? Commissioner Heng?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Out of curiosity, how are your food and beverage sales after hours?
They're very good, actually. The beverage, there's definitely people who want beverages or people who go for the water. We go through an insane amount of water. We have they're giant water things, and we refill them with those, like the water jugs you'd have in the water dispenser, like at the office, and we're refilling them constantly through the night. And we actually go through a lot of food. We go through a lot of food. And it's quick and easy food, so it's not, a seared ahi tuna. It's definitely food that's, easy to get and food that's appealing and eat. And we think about it, food that's easy to eat. Nobody wants to get something that's full of sauce and this and that. Easy food that's appealing to people, chicken nuggets, popcorn chicken, stuff like that. That's easy and we also have vegan and healthy options. So it's easy for people to eat and wait. And we have something for everybody. And we make sure that we offer something for everybody.
So it's a lot of food and good water to help people sober up.
Good water, cold spa water.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone from the public wishing to speak on this item?
Yes. First up, we'll have Tyus Berry, followed by Armando Rivera Figueroa. And I'm going to ask, when you speak, please state your name and the residence that you reside in. The city, I'm sorry, that you reside in.
Hi there, good evening. My name is Tyus Berry, and I live on Larrabee Street, close to Revolver in West Hollywood. I DJ in most of the WeHo bars, and I've known both Paul and Jacob since maybe 2018. I've worked with them for about the same amount of time. With me living so close to the bars and working in WeHo's nightlife, I've experienced the benefits of Tropicana being open until 4 a.m. firsthand. And with them being open, there's a sense of safety from their security presence and their cameras being active, helping to discourage potential robberies or fights. Me and my boyfriend also have 4 dogs, and in the past, after work, it can be stressful that I have to wait until sometimes 2:45 or 3 a.m. for the crowd to die down so my dogs aren't anxious when I'm walking them and stuff like that. But with beaches open at 4 a.m. or Tropicana being open at 4 a.m., you eliminate people drunkenly waiting for their Ubers and an opportunity for people to sober up since you can't serve alcohol past 2 a.m. Tropicana does a phenomenal job of making me feel both safe as a DJ here and as a resident right down the street.
Thank you.
Next, we have Armando Figueroa, followed by Bo Barron.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Armando Rivera Figueroa. I've been living in West Hollywood for 20 years, and I'm a homeowner for the last 15 years, very happily. I live on the corner of Cynthia and Larrabee, a very, very busy corner. And, I'm here today to talk on the support of Beaches Tropicana and opening after hours. I've seen a lot of things in West Hollywood for the last 20 years, how the city has changed, sometimes for good, sometimes for not that good. And I always wanted more. I always wanted more for the city because I love the city. It's a place that I choose to come here when I knew I was gay. I had to go somewhere that I was going to be accepted, that I was going to be, respected also. And, I think that providing opportunities like these ones to us, the residents, do help us, to really love where we live. One of the things that I do want to say is that allowing Beaches Tropicana to open after regular hours is one of those little changing decisions that you think that, you're going to vote, yes, no, whatever. But for a lot of us, it do mean a lot of things. I do work a regular job, 8 to 5, well, I'm exempt. But most of my friends that live here that I have known for the last 15 years, like Paul mentioned, work the nightlife. So it's really difficult for us to see each other. Now, when I know that they finish at midnight or at 1 a.m., that's where we're gonna go. That's our plan. We're gonna dance the night out. And it's really, really, really cool, to have that opportunity that we didn't have before because everything was closing, and to tell you the truth, if you like dancing, and as Latino, Paul, very good job with Fuego. It's the place to go on Fridays. So just FYI, just go check it out. So it really makes me happy to be able to dance, to laugh, to forget about my everyday problems. And, I think that it just provides an opportunity to work too late, to go dinner with family, and then to go party with friends. Something that I always envy from people in Europe. That here you have to go dinner at 7 p.m., 6 p.m., and you have to get off work at 5. And if you work downtown, good luck on that. So, it really helps you, this little decision, to shift your lifestyle, to make your lifestyle what you want it to be. So you get more options, you get more control of your life. So and I think that many people don't think about that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next, we have Bo Byron, followed by Bunny Trendy.
Hello, good evening. Hi, Bo Byron here. I too am from the delegation of Larrabee Street. I've lived on Larrabee and Cynthia for 13 years, and I can give my personal account to, well, first let me say that I sleep well at night knowing that Paul and Jacob and this team are the ones in charge of managing the safety of such a large business that's basically in my backyard, so I really appreciate that. And with them having the after hours available, I can say that from my personal account, I have less encounters. Like when I'm walking my dog at 2 in the morning or late at night, I have less encounters with drunk people walking up the street. So I would say that the staggering of the exit times has helped in that. So not only are there less people loitering in my neighborhood, like waiting for Uber prices to go down or looking for something else to do, there's also less urination going on my street, which for me is huge. So I see it as an improvement in safety and also in, public health, because there's nowhere to go to the bathroom after 2 without after hours spaces available. So they have such a large space that can accommodate a ton of people safely. They can go to the bathroom there, hang out there, and then they're less likely to do it in front of my apartment. And so for me, I just think it's a no-brainer because I think we've seen that it's been effective, and it's been, yeah. So anyway, thank you for your time. Bye, have a good day.
Thank you.
Next, we have Bunny Trendy, followed by Robert Hawthorne.
My handwriting isn't too good. I hope it's okay if I can read some of my notes. Hi, I'm Bobby Trendy. I've lived here in West Hollywood in the Norma Triangle since 1989. I remember the rage and the day it opened. I've seen many businesses come and go here in this community, but I have not seen operators such as these two. They are very proactive. They're involved on any given day and afternoon. You will see Jacob outside doing something to better that patio for us, the customers, in which I am. This venue has taken significant steps to mitigate any potential negative impacts in the neighborhood, has proven to be a responsible operator by adhering to the city. I've been to all these hearings before for this company over here, engaging with the community, taking proactive steps to address any concerns that may arise. The venue brings employment to many of my friends. The venue brings safety. One night, I was leaving the bar. We pregame at my home up the street. We come down to the bar. We have a good time. I always bring 2 people. I was leaving alone one time, going out the side door where the Showtime clothing store, there's an entrance over there. And the doorman name is Don, and his colleague name is Sean Milan. They said, "Bobby, are you by yourself?" I said, "Yes." Sean Milan actually walked me up to my home in the Norma Triangle. That's not a part of his job there. He walked me home to safety. It's very dark up Hilldale, and forever I will not forget that. No doorman has offered or done that before. And I think it's through the training and the guidance of Paul Nichols. I've known Paul Nichols at his venue for over 20 years now. He is for the people. He cares about the people. Everything he does is very personal. And it's true, everything he was saying. He wasn't pretending. He wasn't acting. He wasn't trying to impress anybody here. He does what he says. Next, I'd like to say it's a safe place for these dancers and strippers and drag queens and everyone to sit around and wait till their friends get off, because they can't be hanging out on the streets and all this is going on outside. It's a safe venue. And I'd like to say that this is really a community center for safety. They're doing this really for the city, the occupants of the city, the residents of the city, the people that work in these establishments and venues. It's a community center, what they're doing from 2 to 4. They're not making any money. But to answer your question, the churros are delicious. Thank you.
Thank you.
Up next, we have Robert Hawthorne, followed by Stephen Clark.
Hi there, how are you? My name's Robert Hawthorne. I'm a long-term resident of West Hollywood. I've lived here since 2009. Normally I don't go to things like this. The extent is paying my property tax and getting parking permits, but I did write a letter before because this is something like dear to me. I'm friends with Paul, and I observe. One thing I wanted to say is, after I wrote that letter and they were approved for the hearing, I actually went and kind of watched what they did on their after hours because they do walk their talk. I was like, I'm going to check and see if you guys really are doing it, and they do. They are really. So I wanted to really acknowledge you guys for that because, no other business owners in this town that I've seen really do what they say or care as much. And I'm going to address one point in particular that I think is a big deal for us. But I am in support, obviously, of continuing this grant, the extended license. This provides beaches. Tropicana has demonstrated a very strong commitment to maintaining a safe and clean and respectful environment. They're not been associated with any disturbances. And in fact, they've taken things one step further. Primarily, I watched Paul as a friend of mine to hear about it, as you guys all know, we have a pretty serious situation here in West Hollywood regarding pickpocketing and cell phone theft. That is, as a resident, it's alarming because I'd rather them take my wallet with cash in it than my cell phone. And that's something I never thought I would say. But because what they're doing is, we all know what they're doing. And I've watched them, their staff is trained to identify. They don't just like other businesses put up the sign that says pickpocket, beware pickpocketers. A same kind of sign you'd see in Rome or somewhere. The staff is trained. I've watched them with my own eyes go after him, but I've been in mid-conversation with Paul and have him stop and walk away from me and watch multiple security guards come from different angles to actually apprehend a full ring of people with cell phones that it's not the people that you normally think it is. They've taken it very personal. How many other business owners let's just say on the Strip have done that? I personally haven't seen anything. So I really want to commend them for that, and they should be rewarded for that. And I think that's what I'm here to really support that. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Stephen Clark, followed by Cecilia Lauren.
Hello, my name is Stephen Clark. I have been a resident of West Hollywood for 2 years now. I live on Sweetser. I've been fortunate enough to be an employee of Beaches for the past 2 years, but I've worked in West Hollywood as an event producer and a bartender for 6 years. I am here to implore you guys today to vote yes on 7A because this 2 to 4 a.m. license would really help with creating a safer space. These kinds of bars are where we make friends, where we celebrate. It's where we create safe spaces, and especially after clubs get out, particularly for me, because I usually don't get off until 3 or 3:30, whenever all those are cashed out. It's good to get to meet up with friends at the end of the night, so nobody's going home alone, everybody's sobering down, and we're all coming to a safer place at the end of the night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cecilia Lauren.
Hello, good evening. My name is Cecilia Lauren. I'm a resident of West Hollywood, and I have been working with Paul and Jacob for over a year as a professional entertainer and host. Getting out of my looks and costumes I wear for work, I don't need to rush when I'm getting done with work. So I actually feel safe around the environment and in the venue as it continues to stay open. Also for looking for lifts or Uber home is also beneficial for them to stay open at that time. I personally believe that Beaches Tropicana has the resources and operational capacity to uphold the standards and the commitments outlined in the existing license. The management team consists of experienced professionals who are fully capable of handling after-hours operations, ensuring there is no disruption to service quality or customer satisfaction. We are confident that the transferring after-hours license will allow for smoother businesses operations and will help us continue to meet the needs of our clientele effectively. So we request your support in facilitating the license. Thank you.
Thank you.
And that's the end of our public speakers.
Thank you. Applicant, do you wish to make any further statement in the rebuttal or following the public comment? Okay. Do any commissioners have any further questions before we close the public comment? No? Okay, thank you. I will now close the public comment portion of this hearing and bring the matter back to the commission for discussion and deliberation. Commissioner Eisenberg?
Okay, I want to say I have no problem approving this extended hours based on the fact that under the previous ownership, when it was, I don't remember the name of it right now, that it went well and that it's going well so far under the temporary thing. My only concern really doesn't have to do with this club particularly. It's something I want to ask staff. When we first evaluated whether or not to extend between 2 and 4, we asked, or at least I asked, for a clarification. If you could go to the city council for clarification on if there's going to be a limit to how many clubs we approve for the extended hours, or just everybody who comes before us, are we going to approve? I was hoping the council would say, is there a certain number we'd approve or whatever? My main concern is, like Sheriff Duran, and you were just saying, the reallocation of the scheduling of the sheriffs. Do we have enough people to support during those hours? Because we all know that's when most of the crime and accidents, nothing related to the club, happen around the city. Just last night at 3 in the morning at the bottom of my intersection was a big crash. You know, that's when people are driving around. So have we gone to the city council to get some clarification on how many we can approve going forward?
Thanks, Commissioner Eisenberg. I believe staff provided a response on this issue previously, and the response at that time was that staff is operating under the existing code regulations for the issuance of extended hour permits. And the question to be brought before the council as to whether there should be a limit on these permits was not brought to them, because we are operating within the existing framework of the code, which provides for applicants to apply for an extended hour permit and go through the current application process.
So we could, in theory, approve everybody who passes the evaluation. And then we would have a new, the city closes at 4.
We have not received any direction or indication from council that there is a limit on extended hour permits, and nor is there any limit found within the existing code language within the municipal code.
Thank you. Any other commissioners? Commissioner Wood?
Yeah, just to touch on Commissioner Eisenberg's point of having a limit for clubs or restaurants even. I mean, if you look at the numbers, I feel like you can even make the argument that crime and all of these incidents are less between the hours of 2 to 4 than earlier. It seemed like there was like at least like 2 or 3 times the amount of incidents that happened before 2 o'clock. And a lot of these venues don't get busy until 12. Like I was actually there this weekend, and not until 11:30 was there like a big crowd that was at the venue. So it's almost the same amount of time. So maybe 2 to 3 hours is the window when you look at the staff report of crime before, and then 2 hours before later from 2 to 4. So to me, it almost seems like there's less things that are happening between the 2 and 4 time. Condition number 8, I still have questions and concerns about that because it's so vague and unclear. I really like the suggestion that Jacob made, possibly, and also what Mr. Rivas was saying is that if there is some type of violation with how the business is operating, of course, it makes sense over time to charge the business for something like that, right? It shouldn't be put onto the city. But I'm guessing, you know, Mr. Rivas was saying that code enforcement would first try to resolve that issue and work with the business. And I think that's so smart and that's a great step. And if it gets to a point where code enforcement is wanting to instill this type of fine, Is it something that can come back to the Business License Commission where we get to hear from the staff, we get to hear from the person who was fined, the business owner, and as a commission make that decision of, yes, they should be fined the $10,000, or no, they shouldn't, or something in between? Is that condition something that can be altered? Because this is the first time we're going to be starting it, so it seems like if we are going to alter it, it should be something that's done now, so that every business moving forward has the same, rules.
So just to answer your questions, Commissioner Villan. So this would not be the first time that we initiated this condition. The first time that we did apply it was with the previous business owner. This is the first location that we have applied this condition to. But so just to make clarity on that, this wouldn't be the first time that we've done this. This would actually be the second time that we've done this. So in response to Commissioner Volin request about adding language that would bring back an item before the commission, and so when it comes to suspension or revocation, which is outlined in the business license ordinance, those are the only mechanisms that are staff-driven that would allow an item to be brought back before the Business License Commission. But in terms of levying any sort of penalties or fines, recovery costs, so this would not be a fine. This would be recovering costs of staff time based on the hours and the circumstances. So those are not within the purview of the Business License Commission. Again, if we are bringing an item back for a particular license for suspension or revocation, then obviously the commission would have, as a part of that staff report, right, a timeline of all of the action that staff has taken. And so I understand, again, the concern from some of the commissioners regarding condition number 8. But again, it's intended to provide the ability for the city to recover costs on situations that get out of control of the business, and them being incapable, maybe in some instance, of being able to allow a certain type of incident from occurring on their property while the business is in operation. And the city always takes a voluntary compliance approach and model. You've heard that from the applicants in terms of that. So it has nothing to do with myself or anyone else in this role. That's been the standing practice of the city of West Hollywood a lot longer before I have been employed here at the city. And so if you look at the trends in the history, we always work with businesses. We're always interacting and communicating when we are seeing issues that emerge. But everything may be okay, and business may be operating fine, and maybe there's something, a one-time incident that occurs, and then that allows that communication, right? That allows more information. Our sheriff's department and detectives obviously would have access if a business was cooperating in terms of them being shared, let's say, video footage. And so if you are seeing a situation, right, again, and having more background on a particular cause of an incident, and you're seeing that the business was addressing that issue and was making every sort of concerted effort to address it, those are all things that are going to be factored in and taken into consideration. And so again, the staff would want to maintain the condition number 8 with the understanding that, of course, everything is evaluated and assessed on a case-by-case basis. So that's kind of where our position is.
Okay, so it sounds like any type of fine that would be given, it's outside of the purview of the Business License Commission. If that was to ever become a problem with businesses, and it was something that a business or a commissioner wanted to change, how does that happen? What's the process for that?
So for fines, Or are you
No,
talking
for the-
about recovery
for-
costs of this condition that's on here now?
Yeah, so if there is a recovery of cost, and they felt like whoever was in charge of code enforcement was just being a little bit too whatever, that maybe it's more fair for the business license to actually hear a hearing about that fine and decide what the right thing to do is. So if it was to come before the business license commission, how does that change? How would that change happen in the future if that was to?
Yeah, so those types of hearing processes do not involve the Business License Commission, and they never have, and they never will for legal purposes. And so, because you are all opining on regulatory hearings for specific licenses that are included in the municipal code. So if it's a fine or something that's levied against a business, then there is an administrative hearing process that's in place. And so there is a bench contract with firms, legal firms, law firms. It's typically an attorney that will hear an appeal. That's a pathway, or the appeal process would be that it would then go to the director for consideration, and then even the city manager at that point. And so there's different appeal processes for folks to pursue, but none of those involve the Business License Commission unless it relates to revocation or suspension of a business license.
Okay, thank you. I know we spend a lot of time on this subject, and Danny, thank you for bringing that up initially. But I just want to make sure the business has clarity as far as how that's going to work, because it does seem a little bit vague. Lastly, I just wanted to thank all the speakers and everyone who attended tonight, whether you spoke or not. Being engaged civically is so important. Just a public service announcement: if you want to be a commissioner ever, like us, speak with your city council member. They appoint the commissioners, and you have the opportunity to be a commissioner for all the different commissions that we have in West Hollywood. So thank you for being here. And lastly, I would just like to say I'm definitely in favor for extending the hours from 2 to 4. I think it's something that the community needs, and for what everybody has expressed, it's definitely I feel almost it's a service that the business is doing for the community. And I see that in so many different ways. And I'm strongly in favor of, supporting this.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Willen. So, Vice Chair Ng?
Thank you. I actually wanted to ask Director Rivas to clarify something about what Commissioner Woolen just said. If they're having hearings here, they have to pay for that, correct? A business has to pay for a hearing. Is that not true?
That is correct.
And then if there was some sort of legislative whatever based on fines, or they end up having whatever hearings before the code compliance and your attorneys, there's also a fee for that. Is that correct?
So it depends. So for administrative citations, which is generally what our code enforcement staff issue to businesses that are, or residents and property owners, right, that are not in compliance with our municipal code requirements, then the part of that process is that somebody does pay the upfront citation amount, or if they qualify for a financial hardship, if they're unable to pay and they're able to demonstrate that, then they wouldn't have to pay, and that upfront fee is waived. And then, that, of course, is pending the decision that's made by the hearing officer. So it all depends. If it's something that somebody is just appealing to the director, or to the city manager, then there is no cost associated with that. That's really something that's just reviewed internally and dealt with and considered and evaluated, and then a decision is provided, right? So those are generally kind of the two steps. However, like if somebody is appealing, let's say, the decision that's made by the commission this evening to the city council, right? Then there is a fee applied with that. And so it varies depending on it, but most of the time there is a cost associated, but sometimes there isn't.
Just the reason that I wanted to point that out is that it would seem more beneficial to the businesses not to have to come before us again.
I'm sorry, not to have.
I said it would seem that it would be beneficial for the businesses not to have to come to us for that, that they would just go through the process of the city because it would be more expensive or cost them more if they had to come before the commission again.
That could be correct, yes, if there's a fee associated with it, yeah.
All right, thank you. You want to say something? Commissioner Heng? No, we're deliberating.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to all the applicants and all the guests that have come before the commission tonight. So I am in favor of recommending approval of staff's item. I believe that the business has made strides. I believe that Mr. Nichols has followed through on his word based on the last hearing. As we can see on the staff report, the number of incidences have been reduced, especially in the early hours of the morning. And the business is a safe haven. When the community members are speaking to us, indicating that they have nowhere else to go between the hours of 2 and 4, and they're possibly inebriated from, their nighttime activities prior to that, the establishment is open, and it keeps people safe. People are able to buy food, buy water to sober up. They don't have to drive home inebriated and hurt themselves or hurt other people. And it is my belief that it's doing a good community service by staying open from 2 to 4. And I am in favor of staff's recommendation for this item. Thank you.
Commissioner Berry?
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. So I was not here for the last time we voted on the extended hours. I will say that while I am concerned with the number of pickpockets, I recognize that that's kind of par with the course at that time of night. I think that based on the staff report and what I heard today, I am in favor of it as well. I think it is something that would be good for the community, and all the facts just lean towards voting in favor.
Thank you. All right. I'd like to just add that, well, thank you, first of all, for the applicant for providing comprehensive presentation. Thank you for the staff. You already spoke, right? Yeah, she already spoke. And as far as that item number 8, what gives me confidence that in the past, which is 1 year period, there were 25 calls and business hasn't been charged even once. So that means there's a good practice established between the city staff and the establishment, and I feel like the business managers feel confident in that as well. I also like the many supporters that came for this, and I do agree with the supporter that voiced that this is not just a business operating extra hours, but it's also a community center that allows people that are finishing their shifts just to go and meet their friends at that place. And I feel like it actually does indeed make it safer by having that business open extended hours plus additional security guards present on that location. So I am in favor of supporting this motion for extending hours. So, all right, and so with that, Vice Chair Eng.
I apologize, actually, I didn't realize that you were asking if I had comments. I just have 2 quick ones. The removal of the liquor I find really interesting. I've never heard that before. I don't know if that's common, but that you do that I think actually is really smart. And then the other comment I want to make is for all of this water distribution, please keep conservation in mind if you can. Let's not just, because we know what happens when, I just don't want to see water wasted. That's just the only thing I'm going to say. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So if there are no more other comments or deliberations, I'd like to ask if there's a motion.
So moved.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the staff's recommendation to extend the business hours for
Okay, motion by
Tropicana.
Commissioner Woolen, seconded by Commissioner Berry. Secretary, may I please get a roll call?
Commissioner Berry?
Aye.
Commissioner Eisenberg,
Aye.
Commissioner Hing,
Aye.
Commissioner Volin,
Aye.
Vice Chair Ng,
Aye.
and Chair Yusupov.
Aye.
And the item is approved.
Thank you. The next item is item number 8, unfinished business, which we have none. And then item number 9 is new business, which have none. And item number 10 is items from staff. Update to be provided by the Neighborhood and Business Safety Manager.
Good evening, Chair and members of the Business License Commission. Just a few updates for you tonight. Staff is continuing to prepare for this year's Halloween event and working with our public safety partners. Code enforcement staff will be deployed for that event and will be out in the community to ensure we're all doing everything we can to ensure this is another safe and enjoyable event for the community. We would like to point out that for special event permits, businesses will need to submit their special event permit application to the city for processing by October 21st. And for food trucks and vendors for this year's Halloween event, October 25th is the deadline to submit those applications. Also, I believe the commission, at least some of you may be aware that the governor signed AB 1775, which allows food to be sold and served in cannabis establishments. So we even heard some comments today in a prior meeting about that. So staff will be looking at that legislation and also, getting educated and up to speed on all of the provisions related to that new piece of legislation and how it relates to our own set of codes, which may involve some amendments to our existing code. I believe that is the last item. I don't know if Ms. Benitez or Mr. Rivas has any additional items that you would like to share. And our next meeting will be on Wednesday, November 13th, so please circle that date on your calendar. It will be here
Wednesday?
before you know it.
Wednesday?
Wednesday, November 13th.
Oh, so instead of Tuesday, it's going to be Wednesday.
Because otherwise we would have been here election night.
Oh, it's election night.
Why not have it election night as we...
Like I said, circle that date on your calendar. And unless there's any other comments from our team, that concludes staff's updates for the commission tonight.
Okay, thank you. Next item is item 11, public comment. Do we have any speakers at this time?
There are no more public comments.
Okay. And so this time is set aside for members. Oh, so I guess, so we don't have. Items from commissioners. Do any commissioners have any items to share? No? All right, thank you. And the next item is adjournment. The West Hollywood Business License Commission will adjourn to the next adjourned meeting, which will be held on Wednesday, November 13, 2024 at 6 p.m. at West Hollywood Public Meeting Room, Council Chambers, 625 North San Vicente Boulevard, West Hollywood, California, 90069. And the meeting is...
I'm sorry, I thought adjournment motion. I just want to say one more thing.
Sure,
I'm sorry.
sure.
I'd just like to take a moment to thank President Carter on his 100th birthday. Carter's policies promote transparency and accountability in governance, encouraging local governments to be more open with their finances and decision-making processes, increasing in public trust. He represents the best of us as he leads with kindness and honor. And just want to say thank you, President Carter. May you live as long as you want and never want as long as you live. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Happy birthday to President Carter. Anyone else? No? Thank you. Meeting is adjourned.
No, it was really nice. I was just reading about his birthday yesterday. I can't believe he's lived so long.
Actually, about 1750.
Dogs or cats at